there we go. So you're going to need something to poke holes in your kite sail, and this is a plastic material, so something metal like a thick sewing needle like this one. It's sort of designed to sew with yarn, but it has like a nice thick tip to it, so it'll leave a good hole for threading yarn through. And if you don't have this, in a pinch you can use a folded paper clip, so maybe I should demonstrate with that. So in a pinch, maybe you can take a paper clip and bend it into this kind of configuration. You can use this for threading your kite string through the small holes you're about to punch. So you're going to punch 4 holes in here, and you're going to start up here at the top. And let's see if the paper clip works. It's a little difficult, not optimal. It did work though. So that was the paper clip. Got the job done. Let's try something better. So I actually have an awl. This is what the fancy people use. This is an awl, and it's for kind of like bookmaking, book arts. But you can stab that down. And it punches a little bit better because it's very sharp at the bottom. And it's like designed to kind of widen the hole as you press it in further, so that gives you a decent sized hole. But I punched the holes to the upper right of this intersection and lower left of the intersection where the top spar crosses over the center spar. You're going to want 2 more holes toward the bottom. I would say, let's see how far up this is. About 2 inches from the bottom of the kite, so right about here. Okay, we're going to put the bridle on. You want the bridle to be coming out of the face of the kite. So we're going to try to thread this needle. And first we'll use something optimal like this yarn sewing needle, which is designed for thicker fiber. So we've got our cotton or whatever material kite string you have. And we'll start by going into the face of the kite into one of these holes. We'll punch 2 at the top here, and then we're going to come out the other side. We're basically going to pull until we get the tail. We're going to tie it off. And I just tie 3 granny knots, one on top of the other. Then you go into the bottom. See if I can find my holes. So let's say I didn't have this fancy needle. Let's say we had just a paper clip that we had unfolded and deconstructed. So we're gonna like just kind of loop it into the paper clip. And we'll sort of sew that way. Like this is like a poor man's needle. But we're working with what we have in our homes at this point. And it gets the job done. There it goes. And make sure this stays on the front there. And then we're going to pass it through from the back and tie it off again, just like we did on the other side. So there's the back side. We're going back in, using our poor man's paperclip sewing needle. It's a little bit harder to use, but figured I'd just show you so that you know it works. And then that's done. Now here's the tricky part. We have these great diagrams, and these show the bridle like this, right? So in the past when I've measured, I found the top leg of the bridle. Each of these sides of the bridle is usually called a leg. The top leg is 7.5 inches and the bottom leg is 12. You really don't have to measure though. You know, if you want to make sure, you can do so. Like, you can be very careful and say, oh, well, this is 7 here. I want to leave a little extra because I know I'm going to tie a knot off. And you just want to basically make sure you leave yourself more string in this loop than the 7.5 plus 12, which is 19.5 inches. So I'm just going to eyeball it, and this is ample string. And the best part is if you get it wrong, it's just string and you can always retie it and test it out again. And in different winds, you're gonna want your bridle to fly at different angles, and as you get better at flying kites, you'll begin to figure that out. You want to hold it so that the kite is about between 15 and 30 degrees off the table, like in terms of its angle. So it's sort of like, this would be 180 degrees, I guess, or 0, it's flat. So 15 would be sort of more like that. And this would be 90. So you basically want to be hanging it so that it naturally, like gripping it at a point on the string where it naturally hangs at that 15-degree angle off of the table. And to my eye, this is looking about right. Tie a knot. We'll commit to that. So this knot is going to form a little loop at the end, and that's where you're going to be able to attach your kite strings. So basically, last step to put the tails on. So we've got 4 of these, and the tails go here, 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 and here. I'm going to use glue stick, but you can use tape if you don't have the glue stick. I'm going to give it like a fair amount of, like about more than an inch of contact with the kite so that it sticks really well. Here's the last tail. All right. The very last step is going to be attaching your kite string. Essentially for this bridle, you just want to tie a loop off at the top, and you want the upper string to be shorter than the lower string. As you try to fly this kite, you can try tying little knots in either of these to, you know, change the angle of how the kite's hitting the wind. The more you fly kites, the better you'll get at calculating these angles and figuring out how to bridle your kite. But if it looks like this, essentially, it should be fine, as long as this upper leg of the bridle is a little bit shorter than the lower one. As far as getting your kite handle attached, you basically want to have a big loop tied off at the end of your handle, big enough to pass the handle through. And then you're going to take this loop, pass it through the smaller loop that you made. I usually go past the knot just because it's easier. And then I pass the handle through that big loop again. And just pull it tight. And as the strings kind of get untangled, you'll see they connect. So this is something that can be pretty easily undone. Let's see if I can do it now. So you're going to undo it the same way that you attached it, basically passing this back through the loop, and then back out of that little loop that you tied. And there you go, now they're separated, so you can use this handle for a different kite. So that's kind of like a good trick for recycling your handle if you have multiple kites. Another thing you can do if you like fishing, you can add a little barrel swivel here. A barrel swivel will basically let the string spin without getting sort of like wound. So if your kite was pinwheeling and going in circles, your string wouldn't get twisted and then cause the kite to backlash the other way. It just sort of prevents you from building up a whole bunch of like twist in your string, is what I'll say. But you don't need one. This kite is probably only going to fly, I think there's only about 100 feet of string on this winder, so should be able to have a lot of fun with this without worrying too much about flying details. So I hope that this made sense to you, and I hope you can figure out how to make a kite, and you know, I wish everyone the best.